The 2019 film, Saga of Tanya the Evil is often remembered as one of the franchise's biggest turning points. It marks Tanya's first major campaign outside the Empire, it introduces the Russy Federation, and it pushes the story closer to full-scale world war. But if you've only watched the movie, you've only seen half of what really happened. Because what the movie removes isn't just scenes, it removes the machinery of war itself. In this video, we're going to explore all the major cut content from the Youjo Senki movie. What was changed, what was shortened, what was removed completely, and how these cuts reshaped the story. Before talking about what was cut, we need to understand what the movie is adapting. The film is mainly based on the final chapters of Volume 3 and the majority of Volume 4 of Carlo Zen's dense, politically charged light novels. These volumes cover the Southern Campaign, Tanya's deployment to the frozen Eastern Front, the start of the Empire's war with the Russy Federation, and the beginning of large-scale ideological warfare. The movie gave us what we craved: epic large-scale battles, terrifying mage combat, and a brutal showdown between Tanya and her new nemesis, Mary Sue. But behind this fast-paced, action-packed adaptation, an enormous amount of political intrigue, military strategy, character development, and ideological conflict was quietly removed. Let's start from the end of Season 1. The movie begins in the desert, but in the novels, that desert battle was the climax of a campaign built on deception, political sabotage, and logistical desperation. As you remember, at the end of Season 1 of Youjo Senki, the Republican army fled to its colonies to rearm, establishing the Free Republic. Well, the Empire needed to deal with them in order to suppress the resistance in Republic mainland while fighting against the Commonwealth on the sky, having also declared war on the Empire as the Free Republic and the surviving elements of the Legedonian forces allies. To discuss this, the General Staff has a reunion deciding to send an expeditionary army to the southern continent. However, one major problem is the Empire have no major port or naval supply system. This because the Imperial Army was organized around interior line strategy, and being a land nation, they have very little concept of major sea route defense, with only basic awareness of seaborne transport capabilities as far as shuttling troops to and from the Imperial-occupied territory in Norton. As such, they can only send out a small force that would be resupplied by a small ally named the Ildoa Kingdom, who remained officially neutral yet allowed its stationing in his colonies as an allied country, as they had common interests since Ildoa was glad to see the decline of the Republic. This expeditionary army that is comprised of 2 divisions worth of light infantry, mobile artillery, tanks, and mages, and the 203rd Aerial Mage Battalion is sent to help out. The Commonwealth and the Republic are self-sustaining to some extent thanks to a degree of industrial base in their colonies, and having more ships than they could count, became overconfident, and knowing that the Empire lacks the capability of projecting its power properly in a foreign country, thought that the Empire sending troops to the southern continent was simply dispatched for political reasons, expansion of influence and respect for the Empire's ally, and would work on gathering more fighting power. Most people expected the lull to continue for the foreseeable future, which was betrayed by the most important cut of the movie, Imperial Commander von Romel. From the moment the Imperial Southern Continent Expeditionary Army Corps arrived, they jumped into action. In Barbad Desert, the Commonwealth Army were dealt an early brutal blow and sent scrambling in a disorderly retreat, while the Imperial units waged maneuver warfare unparalleled in history against an enemy that outnumbered them several times. As soon as Commander von Romel knew de Lugo put some political moves on the Kingdom of Ildoa, trying to go around them and cutting them off from their ally, and realizing time wouldn't work in his favor, despite having barely any units, he made a feint, hitting the tourist naval base, one of the Republic ports, with a sneak attack, and captured it. While securing a base that didn't depend on the Kingdom of Ildoa, he dealt a serious blow to Republican and Commonwealth logistics. We also don't see Tanya's brief meeting with General von Romel, before her departure for the battlefield, where she requests freedom of action for herself and her battalion. After an exchange of words, the general grants her request. Tanya and Romel work well together and become friends. This is my favorite part of this arc and why I was so disappointed they cut it from the movie. More than that, Romel is just the GOAT. In the novel we also read about the problems de Lugo has to face in this southern campaign. Thanks to Operation Ark, General de Lugo had brought many heavy armaments, soldiers, and resources, from the common to the scarce, to their colonies. And so, the Republican were too heavily equipped and the mages stationed there also posed no small threat to the Empire. However, although they were nominally gathered to take back the fatherland, the situation inside the Free Republic was rather chaotic. The colonial commanders reluctantly accepted de Lugo's command, yet showing opposition from their passive, do-nothing colonial bureaucrats. In fact, they didn't take him seriously as de Lugo was the youngest general among them, leading the military simply because of his authority of vice minister of both defense and the armed forces to take command of the army in case of emergency. Nevertheless, de Lugo still needed to rely on the colonial army for their connection for the administration and logistic support. With time, de Lugo turned the non-commissioned officers and lower-ranking commissioned officers on his side and won the loyalty of colony's staff officers, consolidating his power. Then he purges the incompetent colonial officers and centralizes command, turning a politically divided army into a functional war machine. Intelligence agents from the Commonwealth embedded in the wandering nomads in the desert report that despite them taking a new port, Romel supplies are starting to run low. De Lugo comes up with a plan to draw out Romel by spreading false intelligence that the Republican forces intends to settle this by marching upon their port in divided units, which would in turn draw out Romel to do what he does best, and that would allow them to ambush him. Romel hears of this intelligence and considering the lack of water his troops have, he decides to go for it. But on the eve of battle, Tanya requests permission to scout with her battalion. Romel, none the wiser about what could happen, lets her go while he prepares to go out. In the middle of the desert with the 203rd Battalion advancing on a mission to intercept the supposed enemy groups. However, upon reaching the assigned coordinates, Tanya notices something strange. There is no sign of anyone. In that instant, she realizes they were deliberately diverted. The real enemy forces are gathered elsewhere. Although Tanya's warning did manage to get through in time, the Republicans were still close enough to get on the attack and pin down Romel and his forces. Tanya, after contemplating the many different ways to get out of combat and determining which would result in a firing squad, decided to attack one of the flanks of the Republicans. De Lugo gets a report while in the forward HQ, in the center rear of the Republican lines, that a regiment of mages has appeared on the right flank. The Republican command immediately denies the report, stating that there is no way that their scouts and intelligence could have missed an additional regiment of mages. But when further reports come in about several mage companies dropping like flies, they believe it. He responds by sending the main mage force from the front to the right flank to counter the mages, but then he gets a terrible message. The mages are coming straight for HQ. Tanya noted that mages mainly rely on their magic senses rather than their eyes when they're traveling. As such, it is easy to get around one another if one side isn't paying attention. This subsequently allowed them to do a strafing run on the Republican HQ, destroying their equipment and barely missing de Lugo. When Romel hears of this, he bursts out laughing at the mere thought of Tanya and her skill. He subsequently put most of his forces on the left flank and manages to break through using maneuver warfare. This in turn forces de Lugo to call for retreat, giving the win to the Imperials. Like that, the Imperial Southern Continent Expeditionary Corps avoided getting destroyed from encirclement and defeated the Republicans' plan to retake the tourist naval base. As the Republican army had withdrawn from the battlefield, the Imperial Army got a firm foothold on the southern continent. Then the Prime Minister of Commonwealth declares that future history books will mark this moment as the brightest moment of the Reich and the darkest moment for the Commonwealth. But the worst moment has now passed, meaning darkness will turn to light and that the Commonwealth will ultimately win. And just like in the movie, after a few months in the desert, Tanya and her unit are all recalled from southern continent back to the capital, Biran. Tanya immediately assumes that they are getting a long vacation, and they can take a rest leisurely. But she is sorely mistaken. While the Eastern Front arc is the most faithfully adapted part of the movie, the novels still add crucial context and scenes, starting right from the battalion's return to Biran. In the movie, after the battalion's return to base, Colonel Rirujin approached to congratulate Tanya and asked how her unit was doing. Tanya proudly replied that they had completed the mission with minimal losses and that troop morale was sky-high. However, she noticed that Mayor Yuger was trying to signal her to stop talking. Soon after, she understood why. They were informed of their next operation and, without time to react, were sent straight onto the plane. Once in flight, Tanya gathers her soldiers to explain the situation. They must infiltrate Federation territory to observe enemy troop movements. Their mission is purely reconnaissance. They are not allowed to attack, since officially the Federation has not yet declared war. What isn't shown is how and why the Empire takes this decision. One of the Eastern Army Tactical Special Reconnaissance Platoon delivered a distress signal to General Staff. They raised the alarm, reporting via encoded signal that a federal unit of unclear scale was mobilizing. After the report, there have been no additional transmissions, and multiple other tactical special reconnaissance platoons have gone dark, raising the alarm against a potential, massive, invasion from their neighbor. But before the Empire can do anything, they need to first unravel the situation in the Russy Federation. What I like of these next volumes, is that we start to see how Tanya's age limits her in her duties. She asks Weiss to tell the battalion about their new orders, much to his surprise, and explains that it is because her voice won't be heard with all the noise in the plane. When they land behind the border and because it is a recon mission, they conceal their magic temporarily. Tanya can't use the advantages the magic usually gives her, and despite her small stature and physical strain, she decides to scout further with the rest of the company commanders. In the novel, the scene then cuts to the remembrance/victory parade of the war in the Federation in 1980. A reporter interviews a war historian, who explains that the reason for the sudden attack was the paranoia of the upper echelons of the Federation at the time, that they all suddenly believed that the Empire was going after them, so they decided to strike first. This kind of was adapted at the beginning of the movie. I think it was better this way for pacing reasons. This next cut surprised me because it was an excellent time to put in Being X, but the movie, staying true to the anime's grounded perspective, cuts away to a place we've never seen before, the Divine Realm. Here, Being X and other higher existences watch and intervene in all mortal worlds. We learn that the Federation's paranoia isn't just political, it's divinely inspired. The Celestials rejoice at the increase of faith among mankind, gained at the cost of countless lives. However, atheism has been increasing in a certain region of the mortal world, a country that worships its own ideology and leaders while rejecting and persecuting religion. This is why they decided to send a warning to the leaders of the communist regime, Joseph and Loria, through dreams. Everything they had built on sacrilege would crumble with the arrival of an apostle from the West. In this way, paranoia would consume the upper echelons of the Federation and fuel their subsequent invasion of the Empire. The outbreak and escalation of the Eastern Front would lead the soldiers of the Federation army to seek solace and salvation in faith. Meanwhile, the Imperials were in a state of chaos that the Federation would join the war now of all times, and some couldn't believe it. We return to the movie, back at the home front. Things are in chaos as the Federation is pushing harder on the Eastern Front and they push into the Empire further than expected. But Tanya has an idea. She asks permission to raid the Federation capital Moskva. The plan sounds so crazy that even Zetur is doubting its possibility. The sole person to speak for Tanya is Colonel Rirujin. Eventually Zetur caves and Tanya is given permission. Elsewhere on the continent, we see Mary writing a letter to her mother. She explains that she joined the Foreign Volunteer Assault Force and describes how her training is progressing. This happens at the beginning of Volume 5 of the light novels. Tanya reached Moskva due to there being no mages in the Russy army. She remembers that the communists are quite heavy on the oppression of the free press and decides to make a mess so large that no one can deny it. She splits up her team. She goes to destroy the People's Palace, while Weiss goes to remodel the bronze statues around the city. Visha is going after the secret police and Grants is assaulting the Red Square. Tanya is unusually happy as she is going after actual communists, which she deems the enemy of all her popular beliefs, freedom, liberty, and free market, and that she deems that all who follow these three core beliefs must fight against communists. A few minutes, a terrible Russy counterattack and one imperial anthem performed on top of St. Basil's Cathedral later, all but Grants accomplish their missions as the Red Square is surprisingly heavily fortified. It's important to note that there is no fight with any mages here, and so Mary Sue and Tanya don't meet each other yet in the novel. But unfortunately for Tanya, the number 2 man in the Federation, Loria, spots her and falls in love with her. Loria vows to do everything in his power to capture her, break her, and ravish her. In other words, he is being completely disgusting. After news of the Imperial Army's attack on Moskva spreads around the world, Cherbourg fears the same could happen in Londinium, so he orders the troops destined for the southern continent to be withdrawn to reinforce security in the capital. which further helps Romel. After the general staff agrees that Tanya went overboard, they sent Tanya to the rear of the eastern lines to be on standby and provide cover for the eastern army. While on standby, she gets a report that the nearby town of Tegenhof is surrounded by several divisions of enemies and that the 2 divisions stationed there are requesting for aid. And the events occurred like in the movie. Except of course Tanya's fight with Mary, but even without mages, the Empire had many losses. Tanya and her battalion also got exhausted by the battle. What the movie kind of cut was the afterwards. Tanya is recalled to the capital, where she is put on trial yet again, for what happened in Moskva as it blew apart any chance of peace with Rittersdorf as the judge and Zetur as defense attorney. Tanya is formally charged with disobeying orders and attacking the civilian population, but she pleads not guilty. Zetur defends Tanya, saying that her actions were necessary for the military and that she did take precaution against civilians, attacking only government targets, and every single one of the military officers present support Tanya. Tanya is eventually found not guilty and Zetur asks where she wishes to be posted next. Tanya responds by requesting a spot in the rear, shocking everyone. Zetur furiously asks why and Tanya states that if people aren't happy with how she does things on the front lines, she doesn't want to be there. Everyone except Tanya knew that the trial was going to end as her not guilty. It was a complete farce, but Tanya didn't and was really scared and didn't understand why she was being accused. Zetur almost loses it completely with Tanya acting childishly. This conversation is actually really funny to me because we see it from Ryujin's point of view, where he is completely nervous with how mad Zetur is and Tanya didn't understand that and being all chill. Zetur calms himself down after reminding himself that Tanya is an actual child, something that Ryujin realized this too and thinks that perhaps Tanya is entering her rebellious phase. Zetur then asks her what she really wants and Tanya replies that she wants to be placed in combat research and strategy, wanting to determine what is the best way to use military forces rather than just being one. Zetur gives Tanya 2 months on the Dodabird Strait, British Channel, to determine new combat tactics and strategy, and her results will determine her new postings. We see a condensed version of this with Tanya giving a speech explaining that the Empire can't win a prolonged war against the Federation. Other nations are preparing to intervene, and the Unified States will likely join as well. If they want any chance, they must invest in research, strategy, and specialized training, not just throwing soldiers into battle. This makes her look more level-headed than in the novel. I like the novel version better. It's not only funnier but it also let us see that no matter how mature Tanya feels and how old she believes herself being, she still can be a little childish and behave her biological age. Meanwhile, we also read that the Commonwealth ambassador traveled to the US to buy some of their weapons and even their new computational orb, showing that the Unified States are not as neutral as they claim and the alliance with these 2 countries is growing. Back in the Federation, the highest-ranking members of the party have a meeting about what must be done. Gloria asks for the mages, who were loyal to the previous imperial regime, in the concentration camps, gulags, to be released and that they and the Empire can just kill each other off. Several other members object, stating that the mages can't be trusted. But Gloria wants then to put the blame of the army loses on them, stopping the objections. In here we see the differences between the antagonists of the movie. In the south, the Empire faced a capable, if politically hamstrung, general in Delugo. But on the eastern front, they encounter a different kind of enemy altogether. A predator in the form of Gloria, whose lust is far more dangerous than any military strategy. It is just after all of this that we see Mary Sue is training in the Commonwealth with the rest of her friend from the Unified States/Entente Alliance. All the recruits there continue to overhear that the Imperials are conducting air superiority battles over the kingdom and that the Devil of the Rhine has single-handedly killed a company of mages. Mary states that the Devil has to be from another planet in order to do that, since she herself has trouble with shooting alone. Some of the boys want to go pick a fight with the Devil, but Mary says that it's better to think of a plan to survive the Devil first. Tanya, still in the rear, attends an officers' meeting, where she is informed that intelligence had confirmed that a volunteer unit from the Unified States had arrived and is currently training on Commonwealth soil. There they try to decide on how to deal with them should they try to fight, because no one wants to draw the Unified States' attention to the Empire. Tanya states that international wartime law doesn't actually take the nationality of the soldiers into account. If they follow Commonwealth orders from Commonwealth officers, they are Commonwealth soldiers. So, Tanya decides to launch a preemptive strike on the soldiers to warn the states, and its democratically voting citizens, that full mobilization may not be a good idea. When she and her unit take off and attacks the volunteer unit, Mary tries to rush to Tanya to protect her comrades. At this point you really don't hate Mary Sue, she really looks like a normal soldier unlike the movie and the manga, but we will talk about that later. It is after her confrontation with Tanya that goes very similar to the movie, that she become incredibly reckless and obsessed with defeating the Devil of the Rhine. A few weeks later, Tanya is writing her reports to submit to Strategic HQ to make her case for her to transfer to the rear and join the research division. One of these reports promotes the use of a new mixed unit comprised of infantry, tanks, mages and artillery all under one command named Kampfgruppe, battle group, to make them more versatile and make it easier to react to changes on the battlefield. And then just like in the movie 2 months later, the soldiers of the 203rd Battalion play cards, joking that even off the front lines they can't fully relax. Tanya works diligently, convinced that if she performs perfectly, she can spend the rest of her life behind a desk. Weiss come to please ask to be part of her new battle group, much to Tanya's confusion. Then she receives a call from General Zetter telling her that her ideas have been fully approved, and field research will begin, led by her. She will receive a new formation, including infantry, armor, artillery, and additional troops if needed. The unit will be called Salamander Group, just as she suggested. Now Tanya is frustrated that she has to now go back to the front. I ask myself if in the new season we will see how Tanya is forming this new Kampfgruppe and the troubles she faces. This happens in volume 4, but I will not go into specifics in case we see it in season 2. I really hope we see it and we don't just see the group already formed, but who knows. We also see Ryujin trying to object giving this much power to Tanya, but like always he is overruled. And Zetur is going to deploy Tanya to the east to clean up the Federation as fast as possible before they continue the attack against the Commonwealth. Meanwhile in Moskva, Loria proposes to draw in the Imperials to urban warfare as due to their current maneuver warfare, the Federation losses are 5-1 compared to the Empire. But he also requests Tanya to be his prize after they won and capture her and Joseph, even if he feels uncomfortable with the topic still grants Loria's requests. What I like about Loria is that his plans are tactically sound, which makes his perverse obsession with Tanya all the more terrifying, a combination that makes him a truly effective antagonist, so much that the readers are just waiting the moment he dies in the worst of ways. So, to summarize what the movie left out, is one of Youjo Senki's greatest strengths, that is its obsession with logistics. The novels spend pages explaining winter supply problems, ammunition shortages, fuel transport. Entire battles are decided by supply failures. In the movie, these are background details. We only see explosions. We never see the cost of maintaining an army in hellish conditions. In the novels, the general staff is constantly arguing. We see different schools of military thought, conflicting priorities and political pressure. Some generals want fast victory, others want containment. These debates shape Tanya's orders. In the books, this arc ends with unease. Victory feels temporary. Tanya understands that bigger disasters are coming. The Empire is overstretched. Their enemies are learning and the war is far from over. It feels ominous. The movie ends on a high note. The Empire looks dominant. Tanya looks unstoppable. The tone is heroic. This changes how viewers interpret the story. Instead of a warning about militarism, it feels like a power fantasy. This happens for 3 main reasons. 1. Time limit. A movie has 90 minutes, the novels need hundreds of pages. Something had to go. 2. Market appeal. Long political debates don't sell tickets easily. Action does. The studio prioritized spectacle. And 3. Accessibility. The novels are complex. The movie needed to be understandable. For casual viewers, depth was sacrificed for clarity. So, was the movie wrong for cutting this? Not at all. A direct translation would be a 5-hour geopolitical drama. The film's genius was distilling the core narrative, the Empire's gamble and Tanya's pivotal role, into it, and a brutal showdown between Tanya and her new nemesis, Mary Sue. But behind this fast-paced, action-packed this cut content is the rich, novelistic substrate that makes Saga of Tanya the Evil so uniquely compelling. It's the grand strategy, the logistical hell, the human cost on both sides, and the ominous political fallout. It reinforces that this world doesn't revolve around Tanya. She is a devastatingly effective cog in a vast, uncontrollable machine of war, diplomacy, and divine malice. What was your favorite piece of cut content? Do you prefer the movie's focused approach, or do you crave the novel's exhaustive detail? And which cut scene do you wish had been animated? Let me know in the comments below. And before you leave, this video was also going to talk about the differences between the light novel and the manga, but there were more changes than anticipated, and to not make this video longer I have to cut that part to another video, so wait for it. So please consider liking the video, subscribe to the channel and hit that ring bell. Until next time, stay curious.